Welcome to Comic Station issue number 14 for April 3rd, 2013. I am Paul Nisi.
And I'm Scott Cates of the Comic Station.
We'll be going over the new releases for this week. We have a few that are standout for us, as well as a review from last week and a guest review later in today's segment. Alright, for the new releases for April 3rd, 2013, we are going over 3 titles this week. The first one we're going to kick off is actually bringing back an old character. Most people probably are not familiar with her. This is Miss Fury #1 by Dynamite. First off, beautiful artwork. That's the first thing as soon as you open up and as soon as you look at it that immediately hits you. It's a almost stylized realistic artwork. It's almost photorealistic, but with just enough of a style to it that sets it out. The artist does a really good job in this, and especially on the fight scenes. Now the fight scenes will get fairly violent. She is, as she puts it herself, she is not a superhero. So when she fights dirty, she fights to maim, to kill. She is almost, the best way for me to equate this to somebody that has never read a Miss Fury before or is just looking to get into it, she's almost a mix between Batman and Catwoman, where she is a well-to-do woman. She comes from a wealthy family. She is more Catwoman, though, because she's just trying to look to get some of a thrill back in her life. She's bored with being rich. She had an adventure when she was younger, kind of got the blood flowing, and she wants to keep reliving that. So she's become a thief, and a lot of it is about her personally just trying to get that excitement into her life. So she is a mix, because as well much as she is not a superhero, she does try to do good when it presents itself, but she doesn't go out of her way to do it. One of the things, though, with the artwork, I do want to point out that the artist does seem to have a bit of a problem with smiles, especially at the end. Beautiful, beautiful art, beautiful scenes, and there are some adult scenes. There's no nudity per se, but there are a few butt cheeks and so forth, and some implied nudity. But without that, even just how vibrant the fight scenes are would have put it in an adult. But anyways, back to the smiles. Beautiful artwork. The face, while there is certain looks to her face that will show emotions, it's kind of very stiff, and especially, like I said, the smile just kind of drew me off, and it just went, ugh, like, needs to work on that a little bit. Otherwise, the story is pretty interesting. She's, like I said, a thief. She's trying to steal an object. She ends up getting into a fight with a ring of what turns out to be Nazis, and there's a little bit of a question of, she starts time traveling, but there's a bit of a question of whether it's actually time traveling or she's just going crazy. I'm kind of leaning towards the crazy, but that's just me. It's really interesting. So that, with the Nazis and the time traveling, it does create a bit of a confused storyline and a bit of confused where are they going with this. But it's interesting, very vibrant, very action-packed.
I think, I don't know a lot about the character myself, but what Dynamite has been doing, especially recently, is obviously they started this whole thing off with the Shadow. Then it moved to masks, and now I think they're bringing Miss Fury in. So that whole, I don't want to say 1950s, but in that general theme, these characters are that old, and you know, a lot of the artwork, especially the covers, done by Alex Ross, which is just magnificent as usual.
There was multiple covers. I picked this one up because I liked it the most.
Yeah, and there's, I believe, for Miss Fury, I believe there's 5 covers plus a bunch of variants. So I mean, for nothing else, you check it out for the art, and hopefully the story will grab you. I haven't read it. I will read it tomorrow. So we'll see where it goes.
Yep. All right. The next one is introducing a character that spans multiple of the books that we've already reviewed, specifically some of the Avengers and the Guardian of the Galaxy. This is Thanos Rising, #1. Obviously, with the title, it is centered around Thanos. It is his backstory, basically. The book opens up with Thanos returning to his home world, which is a moon around
Saturn.
Saturn.
Yep. Titan.
Yep. He's returning to his birthplace, and they kind of not spoil because you know who he becomes, but it is his birthplace and the first world he destroys. But you learn why. And it's not hard to see. It's kind of interesting where you see the development of the character. I mean, the first thing that happens when he's born, his mother tries to kill him. He's shunned by a lot of the school students until they start accepting him. Titan does seem very progressive as far as accepting, and even some of the other characters are like, well, he's different. That's neat because a lot of people here are just the same. But you start to see some little quirks in him. He is very childlike, yet at the same time warped. So when tragedy strikes, this one character is kind of goading him a little bit, and she kind of gets this vision of what he should become. And so when tragedy does strike, he doesn't hurt any person, but you start to see some of that mentality come through where he's starting to get his hands a little dirty. So you can see where he's starting to get twisted.
And is twisted. I mean, he does become the Mad God of Titan, which is his official title. It should be a must-read for anybody that's, obviously, if you've seen the Avengers movie, and then moving forward into the Guardians of the Galaxy, and probably Avengers 2, you need to know the background of Thanos. He's probably the preeminent bad guy in all of the Marvel Universe. Certainly the most powerful.
He was pulling the strings of Loki, and that's got to be an interesting dynamic if he can do that. And seeing how he approaches in the next movie and the tie-ins that Marvel's doing such a great job of tying the world in. It's going to be interesting to see how this bad guy got his start. I'm always interested to see what makes somebody go bad.
Yeah, and it's particularly important with the Guardians of the Galaxy, especially the one character from the Guardians is Drax the Destroyer, who's specifically engineered to be able to kill Thanos. Now, obviously, he hasn't ever accomplished that task, but Thanos is as close to being a god as you can be.
Okay. And the last one is actually, this is a #1 title, but it is continuing titles that I really enjoy. I thought you guys might be interested in learning about this. People love zombies. Vietnam War has some interesting things. Well, let's combine them and get 68 Jungle Gym. This is about the Vietnam War with zombies. Basically, zombies start breaking out. The Vietnamese, Viet Cong start using them as almost as soldiers. They use them as traps. They use them to bring out the American soldiers. And this is the story about Jungle Gym. There are other stories that follow the soldiers, but this one in particular follows this one character. He is almost a incarnation, because in some of the earlier books, if you go back and read up on this series, which I recommend if you enjoy zombies and realistic looks and beautiful, vibrant artwork and action-packed and very gory, but you'll see that it's kind of more of a title that's passed on. They're all a little crazy, but it's really fun. It's interesting, and like I said, there are big explosions, lots of artwork, and it's really cool. It's based on some history, so there's an interesting, at the end of each book, there is actually a look through where you can see where the writer actually did research in Vietnam, and some of the set pieces are actually taken out of Vietnam. He has pictures of this is what it was based on, and yes, these situations did happen. But of course he adds this twist, but he shows some of that research in there, so that's always an interesting fact as well.
It's a nice change from The Walking Dead and the other zombie type stuff, and I've read the earlier issues, and I like the Vietnam era for me, so it adds a nice little twist to it.
Yeah.
It's a good read. It's if you like zombies and explosions, it's a great fun read.
Yeah, like going with The Walking Dead again. The zombies are a threat. The enemy is obviously, the humans are a threat. I would say though that the zombies are more of a constant threat than in Walking Dead, especially in the later issues becomes. In the later Walking Dead, it becomes more people are more of a issue. In this one, the zombies always stay an issue. So, all right, those are some of our recommendations for this week that have just come out. We'll be getting to 2 reviews, one from last week. You could probably guess from our little gushing last week over what one we're going to do a quick review on, as well as we have a guest review. Stay tuned. Alright, for the reviews for April 3rd, we are going over, and you probably could have guessed this, first off is East of West #1 from Image Comics. We gushed over this last issue of Comic Station, so I don't want to go over too much again, but I do want to reiterate that Jonathan Hickman is the writer, Nick Dragata is the artist. Beautiful team. They've worked together on the FF Fantastic Four. The artwork is amazing. It adds a lot of depth and vibrant color palette, and it adds to the story itself. A lot that the story may not particularly tell, the artwork gets across. The characters really embody their own personalities and have individuality. And honestly, you can see the full review on frontwardsgamer.com. Just search East of West, or Comic Station will bring it up as well. I'm not going to ruin the score, but I think you guys can pretty much tell the range that it's going to be in. And I end the review with, it immediately made a home on my pull list, and it really should find one on yours. So, you can kind of guess. So, for our next review, since that was kind of short, I actually have a guest review. We're going to be featuring the review by David Goodman from Geekadelphia. His Twitter handle is PhillyGuyDave. Geekadelphia is a local Philadelphia area that covers a lot of the local news, and for their comics section, they cover a lot of publishers in the area. This one is one that has been on Comic Station before, is 215 Inc. We did a interview with them about their anthology that should be out coming up soon. So their issue here is Broken #1 of this is a 3-issue series by Mark Bertolini and Alan Burns. Really, Dave really liked this story. One of the issues that he had with Batman is he's rich. It never really made sense to him. He could have just hired a hitman. He could have done charity. He could have fought crime another way. Why did he choose to instead dress up? So for Dave, this really did answer that, because in this case, the child is named Quinn. He watches his family get murdered. He is not from a rich family. So in order to get revenge on the local mob, he decides that the best way to do it is to join them and kill them from the inside, basically. It's beautiful. It's really well told story. Very graphic. A direct quote from David's review is, "It's a dark, twisted story that pulls no punches and will leave you thinking about it long after the last page." Bertolini's script is elegant and perfectly paced, taking us along and letting us watch as a young man's life changes forever. The art of Burns is amazing, moody, evocative, showing a world that is constant shadow where you never know what's around the corner. If that doesn't make you want to read this, I don't know what does. And from Dave, I've followed him before on Twitter, we talked before, and I trust what he says. And when he ends it with, Broken is a near perfect comic book, and it gets his highest recommendations. You don't get much better than this. You shouldn't miss out. When he says something like that, I believe it, and I follow it. So I will be checking it out. Unfortunately, we don't have one with us today, so we'll have some images from his review. And again, I will leave maybe something here where you can go check him out. But I want to thank David for agreeing. He has agreed in the past to let us feature some of his reviews, and in this case, I wanted to show this one. For our recommendations, what do you have, Scott?
Well, this week I'm going with a book that I have been reading it from the beginning. It's up to issue number 11 from DC. It's Earth 2. I like this book pretty much. I mean, it's well drawn, it's well written, but I like it because it gives me characters that you don't normally get in the DC world anymore. Most of these characters came from the Justice Society of America, prior to the New 52. And in an alternate universe, these are the old characters with some changes. They've taken risks. They turned Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern, gay. So this particular issue is about the continuing efforts of this new person to become Dr. Fate. Dr. Fate is a fantastic character. He's never gotten enough, in my opinion, enough publicity. So the story is really good. It's him and Jay Garrick as the Flash, who is also just learning about his powers, and they're trying to save Jay's mom. So I would recommend this to anybody. It's an interesting twist on the DC world. It gets away from the regular 52 stuff. And in issue number 11, you should be able to find it at your local comic shop, all the way back to number 1. Give it a shot. It's not for everybody, but I find it just gives me another different twist, and I'm looking for something different to throw in with my normal reading. So give it a shot.
All right, thank you. Okay, that was issue number 14 for April 3rd, 2013 for Comic Station. Feel free to leave any comments, let us know. You can always tweet at me or the Comic Station on Twitter. Please let us know if we've missed anything, if you'd like to see anything featured. If you have any ideas or any comics that we may have missed, let us know. Alright, thank you, and we will see you next week.
See you.